any questions for you guys, Stephen, or anybody else that comes up.
Yeah.
And I know you're on mute. Hi.
Oh, hi. So, yeah, I did unmute myself because there's a bit of a lag, but that's okay. So, does anyone have any questions? Just put them into the question box, and or you can put your hand up, and I can unmute you. There are a couple of questions that people have keyed in, but it also
Mm-hmm.
looks like they may have said other things. For example, Laura, who asked, "Have you ever seen sufferers of medication using these tools?" And then you actually wrote said later that you've actually just dealt with someone that's done that. So she wrote, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. I heard what you said." So
That is so funny because, and that is an example of what I just talked about. Like, for example, I use those capacities really for myself too. So, you know when somebody has a question, and when you do stuff like that, you just tap into the audience, and then you pick up other people's question and you answer them. And how much this is what psychology is. This is what we all do. Where you just pick up. What other people want to know, and then you just ask it. Like recently now, I just had a conference here in Rome, and when you ask a question, and then like 10 people in the room said, "Oh, I just had the same question," like
yeah,
how many times are you asking questions for other people? And just acknowledge that this is the capacity we all have, but you already have those, if you want to call them awareness abilities, where you constantly pick up other people's things that are going on for them, and you ask questions for other people that are not necessarily your questions, but it's a contribution for everybody.
that's right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And Renee, Renee asks, how do you work when there is resistance to change?
Ah, cool. That's a really good question. Thank you.
Mm.
So when there's resistance to change, I don't have a point of view about it. I just acknowledge that there's a resistance to change. And many, like the majority of people, do have resistance to change because that is normal operating procedure in this reality, that change, something new, is supposed to be resisted because, it's supposed to be a threat to something we have created so far. So what I do, the most efficient way of dealing with resistance to change is just being an allowance of it. And using the tool I just gave you before, interesting point of view. So for example, when I have a client who comes to me who has resistance for change, I just go, interesting point of view that this client has this point of view. Interesting point of view that this client has this point of view. And I do this as long until I don't have a point of view anymore that this person would like to change or not like to change. Because when I am an allowance of the client, I invite and inspire the person to choose what works for them. And like, let people choose what they choose as long as they need to choose it. Because it never works to force somebody to change. It just creates fight and resistance, and people put their barriers up. So as much as you can be an allowance of people choosing whatever they choose, you actually start to empower them to choose what works for them and change and lower their barriers and start dissipating the resistance that they're functioning from.
Very good answer and very good question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really.
That's a very, very good question. And I think I might know the answer to this, and it sounds like Philip does as well, who's asked the question. Do you have a view on what causes autism? And then he's written, it doesn't look like, it looks like that your view is going to be just deal with what there is. I think, is that what it's written?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, so what if there is no cause, because there's so many theories, and it has been through centuries, like, oh, like the family, and it's DNA, and it's this and that, and it's their brain. It's like, and nothing really, that it doesn't change anything. So whatever people come up with at the cause is not really, it's not pragmatic. It's like, well, okay, cool, so what? It doesn't really change anything. It doesn't really create something that helps or creates a perspective that creates a different possibility for these people. So causes can be multiple. It can be whatever, and it's really actually just an interesting point of view. And is it really relevant? Is it really relevant to find the cause to anything, or is it just, see what is and what is, ask the question, what is truly possible with this? And what if autism is actually a choice people come in with? What if we actually choose to have that? Because if you don't see it as a wrongness, it can actually be a strongness. Like, what if every wrongness you have is actually a strongness? And if you use this, you can inspire the world to a totally different possibility. And it's really what I've seen. It's so beyond what you can imagine. I mean, these people have capacities that can really change and inspire the world to a totally different way of functioning, because it really takes you out of the judgments, of the polarity of, oh, this is wrong or this is right, into, hey, let's just be. What contribution can we be, and what else can we create that hasn't existed here on this planet before? So it's really the X-Men. It's really the mutation to a totally different species. And this takes you out of the question of cause and why into, hey, instead of why, what is possible?
Definitely. We are running a little late on time, so sorry everyone, but it looks
Mm-hmm.
like everyone's watching, so we can see that whether you're paying attention or not, and you are, because of the software that we've got is quite good. So I'll just quickly say that there's a couple of you that are saying thank you, and Lisa and Hannah and Andrew, Saban. There's a few of you saying thank you, but there is one last important question that I'd like to ask, which comes from Nicole. And Nicole asks, as a parent, how can we relate to our children's educators to encourage them to be more allowance for our kids?
Yeah, so that is a really great question. Thank you, Nicole. So educators, they're very different. Some of them are really open to something different. Some of them are very entrained into their education, and that they should do things a certain way. Just be aware of who you have, who the educator is, and just be aware of what people can hear. So if you have an educator that actually is open to something different, um, give them the information they can hear. If not, just don't push information that people cannot hear, because they will just put up their barriers. So the basic approach that you can have with educators and or other therapists or whoever you're dealing with is, the more you are in allowance yourself, the more you're just going, interesting point of view that these people have this point of view, the less you react to their point of view, you will have a totally different approach yourself. And you will be able to deal with these people where don't go into the fight. So, for example, yesterday I was talking to a lady from Australia, actually, which is funny, here in Rome, and she said, "Well, my kids." School teachers want my kid to go to a counselor because they think, he has autism and or autistic tendencies, and they want him to get tested. And she says, I don't want that, and my son doesn't want that either. So, and she was starting to go into this contraction, this fight, this defending her son. And this is what most parents do. They try to defend their kids. And it just creates this contraction, this fighting between the school system and themselves. So I just ask you, put down your barriers, relax into your body, and now, how can you use this to your advantage? How can you out-manipulate the teachers? And so we talked about it, and I asked her, so what if you write back an email, ask them a bunch of questions, just ask them, so what is truly possible with that counselor? You know, what contribution can I be? What contribution can that test be to my son? Like, how can I contribute to that? What is, what do you expect from me? What can I expect from you? Like, really ask a bunch of questions, which puts them to work. It makes them look at the situation. It forces them look at the situation in a totally different perspective. So rather you as a parent coming with the answer, you are making them ask questions. And you putting them to work, what makes them look at the situation in a different perspective. Like, every time you ask questions, you make people open the door to something different that takes them out of the contraction of the answer that they're trying to make real. And she was really happy about that. This is like, oh my God, that works like a charm. So this is one tool. And I know this is a really big question. I can talk about this for ages, but that's just one little spark that you might be able to use for you.
Well, it's fantastic advice, and it's very important as well because our children, while they're developing, that's the most important time in their lives where they set up
Yes.
their um, their beliefs themselves.
Yeah. Yes.
So.
Exactly.
Hmm. All right, Susanna. Well, thank you very much for your time. We're getting a few more saying thank you. So, and yeah, thank you very much. Everyone seem to like it when we're quiet. We know we've got everyone in awe.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's good.
Wow, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy, just inspiring people to totally different perspectives than that's ever been on this planet before. And what if we all could get out of the wrongness and really start discovering what's truly possible for all of us? How would the world look? How would the world look if we all start to do that on a daily basis for ourselves? What an inspiration could we be? And how does it get any better?
That's right. That's right. Very, very true. Okay, well, I hope everyone truly enjoyed the presentation. I certainly did, and I can hear that Susanna enjoyed giving it. Your heart is certainly in it. It certainly comes through.
Yeah.
Certainly comes through. So thank you very much, Susanna, and thank you very much to everyone who joined us and for the great questions. And always open to feedback. And if you want to go to the site or the Facebook page and leave us some feedback or how we can cater to your needs, that's what we're here for. So thank you very much, and thank you again, Susanna.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.